You know that feeling, right? You grab the remote, you hit the power button, and just nothing. Not a flicker, no standby light. The TV is just dead. So, what really happens next? What's the very first thing a technician does when they see that? Well, let's follow their exact playbook and find out. So, this is the big question we're going to answer today. We're going to walk through the methodical, step by step process that a pro uses to hunt down the problem. Forget guesswork. Think of this as a detective story for your television. But first, why do our TVs seem to fail like this in the first place? Well, turns out the root of the problem is often how incredibly advanced and jam-packed they've become. And this really tells the whole story. You know, we've made this trade-off for those super sleek, paper-thin designs. Our TVs are amazing. They've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all this smart stuff baked right in. But to get there, manufacturers had to cram everything onto one single super complex circuit board. And what technicians are seeing is that these modern mainboards, well, they just aren't as tough as the simpler old-school ones were. Yeah, the mainboard is basically the TV's brain. It handles everything. And it used to be one of the most reliable parts in there. But because of all that complexity we just talked about, its failure rate has just shot through the roof. Now it's almost as likely to be the problem as the power supply, which for years was always the #1 suspect. So how does a professional actually find the real problem? Before they even think about picking up a soldering iron, they have to do one thing first: isolate the culprit. Just guessing costs time and money, so they follow a really strict diagnostic process. And this, right here, perfectly illustrates their method. It's all about elimination. First things first. Is the power supply unit, the PSU, even working? Okay, if it is, are the backlights that actually light up the picture okay? And if both of those get a green light, then you know by process of elimination, the main board has to be the problem. Okay, so this is absolutely the first most crucial test. A technician will check if the PSU is sending out a tiny bit of standby voltage to the main board. Now, if that voltage is there but the TV's still dead, it tells them the power supply is doing its job, but the brain isn't waking up. But if there's no voltage at all, boom, they've found the bad guy. The PSU is dead, and the mainboard probably isn't even the issue. All right, so let's say that test pointed the finger right at the mainboard. Now the real investigation begins. The technician starts tracing the flow of power inside the board itself. You see, the mainboard isn't just one single circuit. It's more like a little city with different neighborhoods that all need their own specific voltage to work. A technician will follow this voltage trail, methodically checking these key power regulators. If any one of these is missing, they've just found a huge clue that can lead them straight to the faulty component. But what if all those voltages check out? Well, then the technician has to dig even deeper. They'll check the reset circuit, which is what gives the main processor the initial kick it needs to boot up. Then they'll check the crystal circuit, which acts like a tiny pacemaker, giving the whole system a steady heartbeat. And finally, they check the data lines, just to make sure all the different chips on the board can actually talk to each other. Okay, so if the power is good and the basic communication circuits seem fine, the technician moves down the checklist to the next likely suspects: the TV's memory and the actual software it's trying to run. Now, this is a fantastic little technical detail. A TV's RAM, just like the RAM in your computer, needs a super precise set of voltages to work right. Technicians use charts just like this one to make sure the RAM is getting its main voltage, the VCC, and also the correct reference voltage, which is always exactly half of the main one. If that's off by even a little bit, the TV just won't boot. So it turns out a modern TV really has two different layers of software, or firmware. You've got the bootloader, which is kind of like the ignition sequence in a rocket. It's the very first, most basic code that runs. And then you have the main firmware, which is the whole operating system you see and use. If either one of those gets corrupted, it can stop the whole boot process cold. And this right here, this is a piece of hard-won wisdom straight from the repair bench. If a technician thinks the firmware is corrupt, they might try to reprogram it. But before they do anything, they always back up the original file, even if it's broken. Why? Because sometimes the fix can actually make things worse, and having that original file is the only way to get back to where you started. So we've checked the power, we've checked the support circuits, the memory, and the software. If after all of that the TV is still dead, there's really only one major suspect left: the main processor, the CPU itself. Now, a CPU can fail in a couple of common ways. The first one is a short circuit, and a technician will literally just feel the top of the chip. If it gets really hot really fast, even when the TV is just in standby, that's a dead giveaway that it's pulling way too much power because of a failure inside. And the second common failure is the complete opposite. What if the CPU stays totally cold? That suggests it's not getting any power at all. This is often caused by something called a dry joint, where one of the hundreds of tiny little solder balls that connect the chip to the board has cracked. And let me tell you, this is an incredibly common problem in all kinds of modern electronics. And this quote from our source material really just sums the whole thing up perfectly. What we've been following isn't some kind of magic. It's a systematic inspection. From the power plug all the way down to the tiny solder joints under the CPU, every single step is a logical test designed to find that one single point of failure in a ridiculously complex machine. But following this whole journey brings up a much bigger question, doesn't it? We've seen how cramming more and more features into a smaller and smaller space makes these things more complicated and, yeah, more likely to break. So as our devices keep getting smarter and more integrated, are we reaching a point where a methodical repair like this just isn't possible anymore? Will just replacing the whole thing be the only option? It's definitely something to think about.